James Graff was born on August 20th, 1925. He served in the U.S. Army from May of 1944 to April of 1946. His highest rank was a PFC. His basic training took place in Camp Hood, Texas. Graff was sent to Europe on December 22, 1944 on the RMS Aquitania. He landed in Greenock, Scotland on December 29th. He then took a train to Southampton, crossed the English Channel to a beach near Le Havre, France, and took a boxcar to Metz, where he was informed that he was going to Belgium to join the 134th Infantry, 35th Division C Company.
Transported us up there in 3/4-ton trucks. We got off, and we didn't even have any ammunition. We had a rifle, but we didn't have any ammunition. And we started walking through the snow, and there was a guy up there by a barn, and he had a Jeep. And he said, "C Company, come over here." So we walked over there, and he gave us 2 bandoliers of ammunition and 6 hand grenades. Walked up the trail, and they were bringing down, maybe 25 German prisoners. And up further, the trail went around, and I thought it was a tree limb, but it wound up to be the black boots of a German officer that had been killed, and the body froze, and his legs were sticking out in the path. And right over to the side of him was a young German soldier. I bet he was about my age, 19. He had the bluest eyes, and he was laying on his back, and his mouth was full of snow. He was dead. Pretty quick, we got up into the timber more, and we stopped. The guy said, "I'm Sergeant Storm. You're in the 2nd Squad. Go over and get in the hole with a man over there." I walked over there, and the guy said, "Over here." And I said to him, "I'm Jim Graff from Middletown, Illinois." He said, "I'm Bruce Boyce from South Paris, Maine." So that was my initiation into combat.
Shortly after his initiation, there was a surprise at camp.
We were eating a sandwich and drinking a cup of coffee, and this was kind of in a clearing. There was good moonlight. And this guy walks by us, and Storm says to me, he said, "That guy's got on Kraut mess gear." About that time, somebody hollered, "We got a prisoner." He'd walked through about 2 platoons of infantry and a section of heavy machine guns. Nobody stopped him. They thought he was a GI, I guess. Of course, you couldn't really tell. And he could have stuck a hand grenade in our pocket and blew us to kingdom come, but we didn't know who he was. But he waited till somebody stopped him, and then he hollered, "Comrade." And
the capture of the German soldier was not near as bad as the following battles.
I fought in the Ardennes. The worst battle I was in there was on the 24th through the 26th of January. We attacked a series of small towns in Luxembourg, and we lost 12 men killed. It was a bad weather. It was cold and snowy, and we supposed to have had tanks supporting us, but American tanks, they wasn't real good fighting the German tanks because the German tanks had them outgunned.
As a part of his duties, he was expected to always be alert. One night, while he was on duty, his lieutenant approached him.
I'm sitting on the edge of the hole, and apparently I fell asleep, and he chased me, and he said, "Graff, are you asleep?" And I said, "No, I'm on guard."
One night, the Germans sent over a patrol to the area where Graff was stationed.
Finally, though, they started running some patrols over, and they come into our lines one night, and they wounded 2 men with a machine gun, and they threw a grenade near the hole I was in, because they knew where this stuff was. I mean, they shoot up flares, and then flares lighted up, just like fireworks, like night. And the flares would hang there.
Shrapnel from the grenade hit him in the face and his eye got infected. He went to the aid station to get his eye checked out, but he was just sent back to the front. He was then told by a superior officer to get his eye checked out again.
So by golly, I got on the Jeep and I rode back to the aid station, and that evening I was back in Sittard, Holland in the 105th Evacuation Hospital. Anyway, I spent 6 days in the hospital, and the doctor told me, he said, another 24 hours I'd taken your eye out. But penicillin was new. I took 24 shots in the left arm in 4 days. And I got better, and they sent me back up on the line.
After his eye injury, he faced even more difficulty.
I figured the Krauts might come after us. And so I'm the last mine out. I come on a guy by the name of Christopher. He's from Lorain, Ohio. He said, Graff, he said, Wallace fell in the water, and the water was about this deep we was wading through. And he said, I can't find him. Well, by golly, I tramped around there, and I'll be darned, I stumbled on him. I was able to get him up. He's still alive. And about that time, this lieutenant, who was new, he comes storming back through the water, and he said, if these men can't keep up, leave them behind. I said, we ain't leaving nobody behind. I said, I wouldn't want to be left behind. And I said, we ain't leaving nobody behind. I said, I can carry this guy. This other fellow pulled down on the officer with the rifle, and he said, if I shoot you, they'll never recover your body out here in the water. I said, Lieutenant, you better get out of here, because I said, he means what he says. I said, they'll think you just got killed in combat. He left. So I carry the guy for, about 300 yards and get him. And I said to him, I said, you think if Chris helps you, you can walk? And he said, yep. So I got him on the kind of a road. 60 years later, why, that fellow and I get a Bronze Star for pulling the fellow out of the water. Anyway, we were riding black tanks. And you talk about these roadside bombs in Iraq and stuff. We're come up the road, and the recon has got a bunch of Krauts sacked up in a house. And we had to stop. There's a little convoy over here on the left side. And I don't know where this guy in this Jeep thought he was going. Thought he was going to run over this tank, I guess. But anyway, he pulls out on the shoulder, and he hits a mine. A flash, and the engine goes up about half again as high as this ceiling. Comes right back down through that Jeep. That guy walks away. It breaks both legs on an MP officer standing at the crossroads. Wounds 3 guys on the left side of the tank I'm on.
On March 25th, they crossed the Rhine River.
We got to walk across on a pontoon bridge. And there's a guy I know down here at Riverton, he helped build a bridge. And it was pretty deep. There was all kinds of air activity. Krauts was after him with strafing, and they had a lot of, Americans had a lot of anti-aircraft and searchlights in the sky, even had barrage balloons up. Krauts put down one of these barrage balloons, and they're filled with hydrogen, and you talk about a fire. And we got across the Rhine, and we fought 9 straight days in the industrial Ruhr of Germany.
While in Germany, he was near the Autobahn, and he had a hunch about where the enemy was located.
Now, I said to this, there was a mortar observer up there, and I knew him. And I said, loan me your binoculars. And there was an underpass there. And I could see people moving, so I figured German soldiers. So happened one of these black tank outfit, he was up there on that house we were in. So I went back downstairs and I said, "You put 3 rounds in there." "Yeah, I need an officer to tell us to fire." Of course, you don't know whether they don't want to expose their position, but I think they didn't want to clean the gun, because if they fired it, they'd have to clean it. About that time, this executive officer, Neil, come along, and of course he'd gone overseas with me. He said, "What's up, Graff?" And I said, "I see some krauts in that underpass there," and I said, "These guys say they need an officer to tell them to fire in there." So he said to him, he said, "Put 3 rounds in there." So they did.
Shortly after the war ended, they were sent back home and experienced even more trouble.
So we came home on the 5th day of September 1945 on the Queen Mary. 15,000 men. 2,500 of them sleeping on the open deck, and halfway across we hit a hurricane.
After he got home from Europe, he was transferred to the 5th Division at Camp Campbell, Kentucky. He later attended 1 year at the University of Illinois on his GI Bill. He spent the rest of his life farming and has lived in the same house for 60 years. In 1995, James Graff helped arrange the construction of a monument dedicated to the fallen soldiers of his unit in Luxembourg. C Company 134th Infantry received 3 Presidential Unit citations for their actions in Saint-Lô, France in July of 1944, Habkirch in Germany in December of 1944, and the Ardennes Campaign in 1945.
We owe our freedom to veterans like James Graff, and we respect them greatly. You have fought for this country, and we thank you very much. We also mourn the loss of your friends that you made while overseas. We appreciate the severity of what you went through, and we thank you for taking the time to share your story with us. We hope that it will help others learn more about your experiences and about the events of World War II.